Hello audience. In this video I finish assembling the front seat area on this body. Particularly, I install the seat riser for good, I install the backrest, and make all the framing for the seat. And the back panel is installed permanently now. Now on the edges where it's bolted to the side panels, I made a piece of 1/8 inch steel to reinforce it. And each of these bolts I had to cut custom to length so they didn't go through. And that took all day and I ruined several bolts in the process, but I got it done now. Now with these corners, I'm getting a little fussy about. The other side was okay, but this side, there wasn't quite enough metal on it to cover the wood, so I welded a small piece onto it. Where the back panel comes across it, it's supposed to have an open seam like this. Now I wanted this to be really tight, and I didn't want it to move around either, because if this moves around even a little bit, that can chip the paint. So I welded it on the inside, just in a few places. And in doing that, that's going to hold this still, and it's going to keep this gap from ever opening up. I'm really getting picky about this corner on both sides because when it's assembled, this is at eye level. It's pretty easy to see, so I want it to look pretty good. Another weak point on these bodies is the front seat backrest. Now, this is stronger when it's finished. It's got a wood frame that goes on it, but these are supposed to be perfectly straight across the back, and when they're new they stay that way for a while, but they eventually bow out just because there's a lot of stress on them. This is another part I wanted to figure out some kind of reinforcement for, and I made this. This is 3/4 inch steel tube, and it bolts onto each side. And not only does it make the backrest stronger, it also gives it side support. It helps to prevent the body from twisting. So the next thing I need to do is figure out how I'm going to attach it to the back panel. And I need to redesign the wood frame around this. And here's what I made. Now the originals, at least the ones that I've seen, they usually have a really thick piece of wood going widthwise, and then they have these uprights. Now obviously I had to build it around the steel tube. Now the way I decided to attach it was I made these tabs and I welded them on. So it bolts to the sheet metal through a bolt going through the wood. Now the problem with this is this tube is not directly connected to the sheet metal. It's got a piece of wood between it, but I think it'll still work anyway. Now my first thought was to just weld the tube right to the sheet metal, but that had a few problems. First of all, I can't adjust it at all if I do that, but mostly because this back panel came out really smooth. It doesn't need anything, and I didn't want to risk heat warping it, which I probably would have if I started welding it around here. Now obviously I still need to add the tack strip here, These bolts are just temporary. I'll have to remove them and put longer ones in when it's time to do that. Now the next thing to do is I have to drill all of these and then put a carriage bolt in each of them and take the whole thing apart again, because these are not attached to the seat frame at all. I have to do something about that. And while it's apart, I'll weld these from the back side and then figure out how to reassemble it all. It's a few days later, and now everything's ready to assemble. Now, because the area under the seat is going to be assembled permanently, I brushed on a coat of black Rust-Oleum on everything, just for looks. And did the same thing to the seat frame. Also, these posts, I attached them. So let's put it together and see what happens. And that's it for now. We have this part of the body pretty much done. Now there is more wood that goes on the backrest, and there are some tack strips that go inside here for the upholstery. Now the location of all those is going to depend on how I plan to upholster this, which at the moment I have no idea how I'm going to do that. So for the time being I'm just going to ignore them. And they can be added in at any time, so it's not really important right now. There's also the tack strip that goes on the outside and the top mounts that go here. Now I haven't installed those yet because it's a lot easier to do the body work without them, so I'm going to wait till it's pretty much ready for paint and then try and make those. This is a big step forward on this because now for the first time there's a permanent location to put the driver's seat. And it's a really important moment for me because up until now, looking at this project, I've always kind of just seen it as a bunch of homemade parts thrown together. But I don't know why, but looking at the inside of this, all finished, it's now made the transition in my mind to an actual car body. Missing a lot of parts, and it needs a lot, but still, I now see it as a car body. So my enthusiasm has gone way up on this. Now I really want to get it finished. Now the next big thing to do on this is to make the seat frame for the back. Now I didn't talk much about the seat frame on here, how I made it, or anything, but since I have to make it all over again, I'll get more into detail when I do that. One more thing I did recently was I had to choose the paint color on this because the painter wanted to paint a few of these parts before assembly, like the seat riser for example. I chose to go with what is more or less established as what the original color was, which is midnight blue, or at least this is a variation of it. Now, there's a lot to go over with Model T paints and painting techniques and color choices and why certain colors were used, and I plan to make a video eventually on that subject, probably around the time when it's ready to paint the outside of this, but for now I can at least show you this. And I'll roll it out in the sunlight so you can get a good view of it. And I think I'm going to end the video here. So, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.